July 21st, 2019, 9:42 a.m. A family flees their Georgia home as the ground shifts beneath them. Official permits, including D-2016-1123 and groundwater extraction logs, approved years earlier, set these events in motion. Despite satellite data revealing subsidence of 7.2 centimeters, state leaders delayed action. What did the governor overlook that left 284 families displaced? And why did the warning signs go unheeded? Mary Johnson's day began like any other, but by 9:42 a.m. on July 21st, 2019, she was standing on the front lawn with nothing but a suitcase and her phone. Her address, Parcel 14-002-045, had become a line in the county evacuation log, time-stamped and final. Moments earlier, at 9:39 a.m., she had sent a text message. The content of that message is missing from the public record, a blank space where panic and disbelief must have lived. What is certain is this: the floor beneath her living room had cracked, and the walls had started to separate. The air inside filled with the sharp scent of dust and fresh anxiety. When the official call to leave came, there was no time for debate. Mary grabbed her keys, called out to her husband, and hurried their daughter out the door. The family car pulled away as neighbors gathered in the street, some clutching pets, others still in pajamas, all eyes fixed on the shifting ground where their homes had stood for years. By noon, county officials had cordoned off the block. Emergency vehicles idled at the curb, and clipboards recorded each departure. Mary's parcel number was just one among dozens, but her story, seen busy, is leaving behind family photos, is a half-eaten breakfast, and the promise of normalcy, was echoed in every household that morning. Behind the chaos, the paperwork that allowed houses to rise in this zone was invisible. Permits, approvals, and groundwater logs sat in county files, untouched by the urgency on the street. For Mary, the collapse was not a line on a satellite map or a statistic in a quarterly report. It was the moment her life split into a before and after, measured not in centimeters of subsidence, but in the seconds it took to decide what mattered most to carry out the door. On March 12, 2016, the county issued building permit D-2016-1123 for a cluster of new homes along the river's edge. The paperwork, stamped and signed at the county permitting office, authorized construction on ground that internal notes described as marginal but not formally restricted. Authorized 2 months later, the groundwater permit, W-2016-045, was approved. This allowed up to 1,200 cubic meters per month to be drawn from the aquifer beneath the new development. The well logged as W-2016-178 was drilled to a depth of 54 meters, with static water levels recorded at 18.7 meters below the surface. No special conditions were attached to the permit, and no further hydrological assessment was requested by the county board. Approved. By the summer of 2017, well logs showed steady withdrawals at or near the monthly maximum. The official records, rows of extraction figures, signed meter readings, and annual compliance forms, painted a picture of routine use. But the numbers also revealed a pattern. Groundwater levels began to decline by late 2018, falling by more than 1 meter 10 centimeters over 12 months. The county's own monitoring reports, filed quietly in November 2018, noted the change but stopped short of recommending intervention. Parallel to these local records, satellite data from the GRACE FO mission indicated a county-wide mass loss of approximately 5 millimeters of water equivalent between 2016 and 2019. This subtle but measurable shift matched the timeline of increased pumping and new construction. Permit files, well logs, and satellite gravity data together formed a paper trail, one that traced the arc from official authorization to physical risk. The signatures on the permits, the numbers in the logs, and the silent evidence from space all pointed to a single conclusion. The green lights had been given, and the ground beneath the new homes was changing in ways that no one at the permitting desk had fully measured or understood. Dr. Lina Ortiz, a geotechnical engineer specializing in satellite-based land monitoring, first flagged the anomaly on June 7, 2019. Sentinel-1, a interferometric radar, seen S1AIW 20190707T034512, showed a 3.6 centimeter drop in ground elevation over just 30 days. This was not a modeling artifact or a seasonal fluctuation. It was a clear, measurable loss, confirmed by subsequent TerraSAR XX band data. TerraSAR X scene dated July 15, 2019, at 0322, recorded a 0.42-degree tilt in the largest multi-unit building on the block, with no record of permitted excavation or subsurface work at the site. ICE SAT-2 altimetry, track ATL06, dated September 15, 2019, measured a 12 mm elevation drop at parcel 14-002-045 between March and September 2019. These satellite findings were cross-validated on the ground. The County Emergency Inspection Report, INS-2019-207, dated July 22, 2019, documented a 23 mm offset in the building's foundation, more than double the accepted safety threshold for slab-on-grade construction. Dr. Ortiz's team assembled the data chain, 7.2 centimeters of cumulative subsidence in 2018 per Sentinel-1A, an acute 3.6 centimeter loss in June to July 2019, a 0.42-degree tilt recorded by TerraSAR X, a 12 mm elevation loss from AGSAT-2, and a 23 mm foundation shift on county inspection. Each measurement, from orbit to sidewalk, pointed to the same conclusion. The ground beneath these homes was moving, and the movement was neither random nor minor. The physical collapse was not a theory or projection. It was recorded, measured, and archived in the language of millimeters and degrees, mission IDs and timestamps, before any official response was issued. At 2 p.m. on August 1, 2019, the governor stood at the podium for a scheduled economic development update. The statement, delivered in measured tones, reassured the public that Georgia's growth remained steady and that concerns about isolated housing issues were being addressed at the local level. There was no mention of the cracked foundations, the evacuation logs, or the mounting requests for help already filed by county officials. Behind the scenes, the county's emergency management team had submitted a formal funding request, EMR, on 2019-09-10, yes, on September 10th, describing urgent needs for relocation support and infrastructure repair. The request detailed a projected loss of $34,720,000 in property value, based on the assessor's November report, and warned of cascading fiscal impacts if aid was delayed. In the weeks that followed, foreclosure rates climbed from 2.1% to 6.8%, and the emergency housing log recorded 284 households displaced. Official call logs show no reply from the state by September 20th. County emails and public records reflect a growing frustration. Warnings issued, data submitted, but no allocation, no formal acknowledgement. The gap between the governor's public assurances and the reality on the ground widened with each passing day. As the structural failures multiplied, the absence of decisive state action became a matter measured not just in dollars, but in the number of families forced to leave their homes. County archives list an inspection report, INS 2019-0509, that should document site conditions for early May, yet the file is absent from both digital and paper records. The missing inspection spans the same weeks, when well log entries for permit GW 2016-045 show a sudden drop-off in detail. Meter readings, normally recorded daily, are missing for July and August. The only numbers that remain are monthly summaries, each just below the legal extraction limit. Meanwhile, private well logs for the same period report totals up to 30% higher than the official figures. No explanation appears in agency correspondence or audit notes. On July 20, 2019, a Cosmos SkyMed radar scene, CSK 201907-200420, was requested to capture ground movement at the epicenter of the collapse. The request was confirmed as planned, but no image or metadata was delivered. Archive managers logged the acquisition as no data available, with no technical failure or weather event on record. Both the preceding and following Cosmo scenes are present in the public database. Only this one is missing. The state legislative calendar now mandates a public hearing on the inspection record gap and groundwater discrepancies by January 15, 2026. An external audit of all county permitting and extraction logs must begin within 90 days of the hearing. Technical advisors recommend installing a borehole extensometer at parcel 14002045 to measure future subsidence in real time. Until these steps are completed, the full story behind Georgia's collapse remains unfinished, held open by unanswered questions and missing records. Today, satellite surveys still track shifting ground across Georgia, while state oversight remains inconsistent. Every delayed response puts thousands of homeowners at risk. Until accountability matches technology, the next collapse may not wait for permission. The cost of inaction is measured in more than just lost property. It is measured in trust.